Hey now, yes, the brew stand is out, but that doesn't always mean fun and games and beers and ciders and meads and all that kind of good stuff. Today is maintenance day. Wah, wah. Let me show you why. Over time, even with fairly rigorous scrubbing and stuff like that, this is my boil kettle. This film builds up on here. You can kind of feel it, but it's really difficult to get off. It's on the edges here as well. I could just leave it on here and claim that it adds to house flavor, but yeah, that just looks gross. And if I'm showing people the stand, I don't want it to look like that. And then moving over to the the mash tun here, which is the most recent vessel that I really kind of worked on cleaning. It's still kind of getting a little bit filmed up here. There's a little bit of crud on the sides and there's a little bit underneath the false bottom. So it's time to deal with all of that. Lastly, I also have the hoses. These are the hoses here that were on the mash tun, and it might be a little bit difficult to tell in the video. Oh, there we go. You can see how the one on the right here is significantly darker. It also has some of that film built up. And then this one here, this runs from my plate chiller, from the boil kettle to the plate chiller. This one is definitely all filmed up, so let's get rid of that. Now, I haven't filled anything up with water, but I do have everything set up here. This is definitely a different setup than normal. First of all, I've moved my lids over one to the left. So this is normally my HLT lid, and this one here is normally my mash tun lid. And then, of course, that's just my boil kettle lid. So everything hopped over one. Now, normally what happens is from the mash tun, it comes out through this thermal well fitting down. It comes to the left pump, comes up through the sight glass, and then circulates back into here for recirculation. The other hoses are on the HLT, and they just circulate through the pump on the right and back. And then during sparging, obviously, they go into the mash tun. However, today, what I've got is coming out of the mash tun. This will sort of be where I start, I guess, if it matters. It's a cycle, but it starts here, comes down to the pump on the right, which, although it shouldn't be too bunged up on the inside because it really only ever sees water, I might as well do this if I'm going through the work. It comes up through there, moves into the boil kettle, and then it comes out from there, comes through my mash tun pump, comes through the sight glass to clean that as well, back up, and then I have it going through this plate chiller hose and back up into here. I'm not bothering going through here and cleaning out this fitting here because, again, it only ever sees water. But this way, all of my hoses and my two vessels that see something other than water will be getting clean. I have both of these vessels really quite full, and I'm like well above the usual lines where they see any sort of liquid, and now I'm just heating them up because hot water works a lot better with PBW. Well, I've got my water up around 70 Celsius, 71 Celsius, or 160 Fahrenheit, which is kind of at the top end for what 5-star recommends. I'm using 5 stars PBW, their powdered brewer's wash here, and according to the instructions on this, for cleaning brewing equipment, they want 1.5 or 2 ounces per gallon. That's a lot considering how many gallons I've got here. So I'm actually going with 1 ounce per gallon. So I've got 17 ounces here. Yeah, and I'm going to be adding it here. So I'm just going to roughly split this between the two. Try not to knock this down. Just like so. And they say with the quantity that they recommend adding to give it 25 to 30 minutes. I'll be giving it a bit longer than that. But either way, what we have here is with the hot water combined with the motion of it getting pumped through everything here, that is really working in our favor. That's a lot more efficient. Like in my carboy cleaning video where I go ahead and use PBW to clean the carboys, I'm using hot water. It's not this hot, it's just what I can run my tap water at. And it's still, it's not moving around. So that does take overnight. This will be a lot quicker. So let's see how it works. After just a couple of minutes, this water has gotten hazy and it is doing its thing. So I'm going to give it some time. I found that the hardest part was dialing in exactly where to have both of these valves so that the two tanks weren't rising or falling more than the other and just keeping it equal. But within a few minutes, I was able to dial that in and it worked sweet. So after a couple of hours, I turned it off and let's find out exactly how clean things are. So my next step is basically just disassembling these lines, which I like to do at the bottom. Now, I did turn this off and let it cool down, so I'm not worried about burning my hands with hot water here. But I'll just take apart the tri-clamps. Yeah, it's still a little warm. but nothing too bad. Alright, so full disclosure, after draining this boil kettle, which was the nastier of the two initially, not everything is off there. However, now, using this little scrubby here, everything's going to get quite clean. I'm not going to torture you by making you watch the entire thing. So I'm going to scrub this out and I'll show you right afterwards. This is coming along nicely, and actually I wanted to show you the most obvious differences on the sides here. Scrubbing now, all this stuff just is flaking off like crazy. And on the bottom, as you can see, it's also certainly coming off here. All right, so boil kettle, heavily soiled vessel number 1, looking pretty sweet. Let's get on to the second one. So these fittings here are also really quite a bit cleaner. Give them a little rinse, and then I'm going to blast through. This might get a little messy here. Right through there to flush them out really nicely. Same deal here. And the mash tun, which was cleaner to begin with, is also very nice and clean. And even the false bottom, which looked really clean initially, had a lot of stuff to come off too. So yeah, sweet. And the hoses here, you can see these main ones here that run in between the vessels are all equally as clean, so that's a big win. This one here, this poor end of the line hose, which has never actually been replaced, so probably could use some replacing, is still a little discolored by comparison, but it's actually really quite clean on the inside. So yeah, ultimately that really did the job. So there we go, everything's rinsed off and delightful, drying off here. So don't even talk to me about the actual tube steel on this. That's a story for another time, but until then, keep your stand at 11.